Hey everyone, Effie here. Today I'm going to make this card using our new Coming Up Dahlias stamp set and our Geo Mountain cover plate dies. I started off by white heat embossing this gorgeous floral cluster image onto some watercolor paper. I'm using Canson XL 140 pound paper. I'll be using my Dr. P.H. Martin's Radiant Watercolors. These are liquid watercolors, and I'm using two Pentel Aqua Brushes. I'm using a fine tip brush and a medium tip brush. The colors that I'm using are Cherry Red and Scarlet. I'm using a wet on wet watercolor technique, so I wet the area that I want to paint first with some clean water, and then I add my paint. I kind of go in layers. I go color by color, so I start off with my first base layer, which is my Cherry Red paint. The Cherry Red from this collection is a bit more pink than red, and then I use the Scarlet to add a little bit of shading and shadows to my Dahlias. So the Cherry Red is a bit more pink and the Scarlet is more of that traditional red. So this is why it's really important to swatch out any of your paints when you get them, because sometimes the name of the color doesn't seem true to the actual color, because when you think of Cherry Red, you're thinking of more of a deep red, but for this collection of paints, the Cherry Red is a little bit more pink and fuchsia than traditional red. So I'm putting paint down in layers and in sections. After I put down some color, I take a clean medium tip brush and I just blend that color out. So for the base layer, I choose the Cherry Red, and then I only add the Scarlet watercolor paint to the inner portions of my dahlia petals. And you can see that the Scarlet adds a little bit of dimension to my dahlia because you have that two-tone look going on. Since the buds surrounding the blooming dahlia are smaller, I just paint those three buds with the Cherry Red paint. Then for my leaves, I'm going to use a combination of sap green, lemon yellow, and juniper green. The juniper green is a little bit more blue, but I add it to the wet sap green area and it kind of just darkens that area, giving the shading a little bit more dimension. You can see that I'm not really taking care to stay within my embossed lines, but that is okay because I'll be die cutting this image out with a coordinating die. So I'm not really caring that I'm going outside the lines. I posted this work in progress on social media and I got a really nice response from a lot of people, and they really like the dahlia painted as is. So you can actually just stop right here and just slap on a sentiment and this would make a really nice card. But instead I took it a couple of steps further. So I took the coordinating die for our Coming Up Dahlias and I die cut the cluster image. Next, I die cut my background panels using our new Geo Mountain cover plate dies. These are layering dies and they have 3 cover plate dies per bundle. You have the A, B, and C plates. So I'm going to take each plate and die cut them using different colored cardstocks. This is Geo cover plate A. All 3 cover plates feature a gorgeous geometric pattern, and they each feature a different geometric pattern. So you can use them individually or you can use them together to layer the 3 cover plate die cuts together to get a nice multicolored and dimensional look. And that is how I use it for today's video. Earlier I showed you 3 other colored cardstocks, but I actually ended up changing up my color palette. After a bit of consideration, I decided to change up my color palette for my die cover plates. So for the 3rd layer, I chose a teal card panel. For the middle or 2nd layer, I chose a nice peach card panel. And then for the top layer, I just chose some simple white cardstock. I glued all the layers together with liquid adhesive. You want to make sure that you use an adhesive where you could kind of manipulate the papers as you layer them on top of each other. The dies will cut out each panel, where if you lay them flush against a table or your craft table, they will line up perfectly. But make sure you use an adhesive that gives you a bit of wiggle room before it dries permanently. Once my background die cut panel is adhered to a side folding A2 card base, I'm just going to glue my dahlia cluster right onto the front of my card. We're almost finished here. I just have to put on a sentiment. I'm using our basic label stamp set. This is a nice base sentiment set to have in your collection. I just stamped the 3 sentiments in our crisp black noir dye ink, and the sentiment will actually read, "You are wonderful, just saying." And I thought that this was a nice kind of any occasion card to make, and I feel like I don't have enough of these in my stash. After I stamp the 3 labels, I just fussy cut each sentiment and then I pop them up onto my card base using some dimensional foam tape. And that is it for my video. That die cut background just adds a really fun dimensional touch to my project. So as always, thank you for watching and stopping by. I will see you next time.